Start streaming. There it goes. And now we are streaming, so now we do Red Skeleton.
Well, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. He says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
You are listening to the disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. It is Monday, August 28th, 2017. And a bit of a side note, I would like to inform all listeners and viewers that all recorded audio that we use, we do not own, we only use for educational purposes. We do not make any financial gain from these. Thank you. Take it away, Ed.
Thank you. I have to agree with your statement there. They are on YouTube video, so they're out to the public, so we are using them for educational purposes and sharing others' knowledge of what they have done or what they have done wrongly. Yeah, we're going to be playing one of those audios tonight, or one of the videos tonight, because the main point on this is knowing the rights when you're traveling versus driving. And also, too, we're going to hit on a little part called citizenship, which I'm going to be reading a couple of footnotes from the court system so people know the difference of national and citizen are the same thing. Individual, we'll get into that deal when we listen to this court case lively done here in a little bit. But I wanted to jump in on tonight's conversation and get going on with the rights to travel. The thing is that most people are not comprehending when you're claiming your rights to travel, you have to notify your local people on it, your local county commissioners you have to file with. And you can file it on the public bulletin boards, your city, file it, serve the city, file it on the public bulletin board. And when you do that, on new.org and trackers, we do have a public notice structure that we are putting people's filings on the public notice structure now. So this way people have another way that it's public notice, it's there, it's permanent, and we got to work together. The whole point about our rights in this country is working together. Everybody gets upset with the court system. They don't do it this way. They don't know the Constitution. They're not allowing the Constitution in court. Well, you have to file it in recorded record first. And yes, we know the judges are playing these games, literally playing games with people because of the Attorney Revenue Service. And remember, the British Auxiliary Register to the King and Queen of England is called the bar. Attorneys and lawyers are mentioned in that. Not only that, most of the prisons in the United States, 48 states, are privately owned by attorneys, judges, county commissioners, local investors. That means the well-off people in your community invest in this stuff. In those contracts they do, they have a deal where they supposed to have so many prisoners in the prison, in the jail. Doesn't matter if they kidnap them and held them for a hostage. Okay, it's the bottom line that they have a contract trying to divert us in our rights. And knowing your rights and knowing how to go to court. We're going to be playing a video tonight from YouTube. This gentleman did a wonderful job representing himself in the British Maritime Court System. And remember, too, don't forget that you need to file your rights in court, and that includes Executive Order 10834. That's the maritime flag. And you want to bring that up, and you try to file on the judge on that flag before you get to court. And we're going to get the links up for that, for filing here, hopefully by next week. Because I'm a one-horse soldier here doing all this research, putting this stuff together, getting it up. So it's really hard sometimes for one guy to do all this stuff. And so we're going to be getting that up. We've got numerous new connections on the website, new.org and trackers today. Well, the last couple of weeks we've been putting stuff up, and thanks to associate of ours that have been doing this in a wonderful manner for you folks as well as us. And without his doing this stuff, we couldn't get the education out to the general public. And remember, this is the general public. If you are a lawful bloodline American, or including a legal citizen of the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment, this is where most do not comprehend. The 14th Amendment, if you actually read it, has a separation in it of lawful and legal. And this is where most people don't comprehend the 14th Amendment, where it gives man and woman rights, not privileges. Okay? And this is the one structure that we have to start putting together, getting proper education out. Because if we don't put proper education out, This is the frustration we're all dealing with when we go to these kangaroo courts of the maritime court system. And remember, these people work for you, and when they're doing this stuff illegally, and we do have that, I think, up on the wall, that if they are doing this illegally, you can file on them. And the one thing is that I recommend, a lot of these court cases, when you file and the judge does not, he ignores you, you file it in the federal court system. They're going to tell you, oh, well, we have these rights in court now. Okay? They don't have rights in courts. All right? Courts are maritime structures. The only federally lawful court in the country is Philadelphia. And that's where people need to comprehend. Philadelphia is the only lawful court in the country. You can file in Washington, D.C., and we'll have those links up. But Washington, D.C. does have actual complaint forms on your public servants you can fill out. We're working to get all that put up. So this way we can start working together with each other and filing these charges. Remember, we have to file criminal charges on these men and women who are walking away stealing our assets. Now, we have road pirates. These road pirates are sitting there rape, robbing, and pillaging us for financial gain. That includes your property taxes, too. We'll be doing a segment on that in a couple of weeks. I will be going through that because I have to get the rest of the lawful structure to it together. And once I do that, then we can start going after that one. But I want to make sure I've got all my ducks in an order and corrected on that, because we don't want to get myself or anybody else caught into traps. That's the one thing that Dave and I do not want to get anybody caught up in these traps, because we're not going to sit there and start going through these things and setting people up in traps like some of these other people do. They give out information, and when they give out information, they're not giving correct information. They're only giving part of the information, and that's why people are going to jail. You know, like with people's 192 private accounts. We know the Public Law 73, Chapter 10, but the thing is putting it together so it's done correctly. And that's what we want to make sure when we start putting this stuff together, it's correctly, like with your local courts, with your traffic violations. We do have the structure. We do have the structure on the court systems that we are applying, and that's the one thing I recommend a lot of people read your local court system of who, what, why, and how are in it. Okay, how they are doing things in their court system. Okay, so that way you know what they wrote, so you can quote their own words back to them. Because if you don't quote their own words and use their own words back to them, that's where we get the problems that are going on today. That's really the problems that we have, because people are not using their rules, their structure, or their constitution laws to benefit themselves when they go to these kangaroo courts. Remember, they're out for money. They do not care about you. They do not love you. They do not love your children. Most of them don't even love their own children. And that's sad, but it's true. Remember, the British government put their kids on the street at 18 years old. Oh, well, if you didn't learn, tough. The states are doing that with foster care, putting the kids on the street at 18 years old. And I've attended these hearings up at the Oregon State House and Senate public hearings, where they're trying to come up and say, well, we put the kids on the street and they end up in trouble. Well, that's a fact. They are ending up in trouble, because that is the point that they weren't properly educated. That is the one thing that we all deal with, is lack of proper education. Which one of these videos we're going to play tonight, Dave Hall, and, you know, the guy has a concept of what's going on, but does not know how to present himself in court. And the other frustrating point with that, he got nailed, I guess, with his third or fourth DUI and trying to claim rights. Well, why, number one, are you that intoxicated out there traveling? You know, I'm not against, anybody having a soda or two, an adult drink, but it comes with a responsibility. If you get to the point where you're not coherent to travel, don't push it. Go park behind some building and get some sleep before you travel, realistically. And a cop tries to give you harassment, hey, I can't travel. But, of course, today, that's why they've been kidnapping and holding people, oh, you were drunk in your car, that's drunk driving. Well, you don't want to get in a point where you are seen in public. You have to be smarter than the bear when you're going bear hunting, and that's the one thing that most people don't comprehend or get that reality point, because you have to know what's going on. Okay, you can't expect to go to court and have a judge sit there and go along with your rights. Some do, some don't. And that is the frustration we are all living today on these fraudulent court structures. One audio we're going to play tonight, I thought the guy handled it really well, was over a traffic parking meter ticket. And we're going to play that for everybody tonight so you can clearly hear the way he handled it. He did a wonderful job handling his circumstances in it. And that's the way I look at it. He ask the correct questions. See, when you go to court, you never answer the judge. You always answer with a question. We got one judge that was trying to argue with a claimant that I'm going to try to get that point up, trying to tell him it's his courtroom and he doesn't have a right to speak in his courtroom and stuff. Well, he did, and he ended up having the judge leave the bench, and the judge never came back. So I plan on playing that up here pretty soon eventually. We'll get that out to the general public so you can actually hear some of these things of what's really going on with the general public and people. Because if we don't sit there and start doing this and mainly educating your children 5, 6, 7, 10 years old, they can hear this stuff. They'll learn. They listen. Okay, that's up to you to educate your children. Do not assume that the school is going to educate your children. Schools are not there to educate children. They are there to mind control children. They are there to profit from the child. Just like courts are there to profit from us being kidnapped and held for imprisonment. And remember, and also too, Title 7, 136, Section D, that's cruelty to animals because man is an animal. So when you're writing up your court cases, include that in it. Because why are you being ashamed to call yourself an animal when we're all animals when it really comes down to it? That is the one thing that I don't comprehend, how people don't see that point or see how the Constitution is intended for us to be used correctly. And these judges don't want us to use this stuff, have the knowledge. And when we play some of these tapes tonight, I got one that hopefully we'll have ready here in a couple minutes I want to play, dealing with this guy who was pulled over by police in California. And I was amazed the way the public servant, and I will call this man a public servant, handled these people that he pulled over, demanded their registration and life papers and all this stuff, and they were getting out of the system, and, the officer even admitted and even explained a couple other techniques to help the man and his family to finish the paperwork. That's what I was really impressed, he did it correctly. The public service did. And the cop even told the guy, I'm not towing your car because I believe you're telling me the truth. I believe you're handling these circumstances correctly. And that is the one thing. In Oregon, you have an option out on driving privileges. Okay, they have forms on it. And for insurance, so that way you are the insurance holder. That means you are personally liable with your own personal assets. Your assets, your home, your body, those type of things. You have to be responsible for your assets and your actions. And if children had that brought up to them in education, as parents educating their kids, we wouldn't have the problems we have today. Because why are we sitting out in the street protesting on things that we're sitting there, and the public employees know that. They're out there making a living, literally, doing this, attacking us for personal financial gain. And then, getting a permit to go out there and do stuff. Why do you need a permit to do anything? I mean, I even built my house and I didn't have permits, but it's knowing how to handle the circumstances, knowing how to talk to your public servants. By the time I got done with mine, I never heard back from them. And that's the one thing that you don't want to be bothered. And if you go on new.org and trackers, you can see the signs I got posted up around my property, my land, dealing with public servants are not allowed on my property, or they're not allowed on my land. It's simple. They have to have a grand jury warrant to even think about coming on it. It's filed. And I filed that with the city. I filed that with the county. It's filed with the state. And so that's the whole point, is filing these things with appropriate offices. People do not comprehend that you have to file this stuff. And I talk to a lot of people, well, why should I have to file? Why should I have to do this? I don't have to prove who I am. It's the point is that the reason why they go after this, and if I can make it as simple as possible to most people, you have to prove that you're lawful or legal on the 48 states. Okay? If you're legal and you're complying by tax laws, paying all your taxes, and it even says that in the federal court cases that citizens have rights. Okay? That means illegals, can travel, do this type of stuff. Okay? But so long as that they're paying and they're not convicted felons or getting any other situations. Okay? And like bench probation, you can file against that because there ain't no such thing as bench probation. They created that for the courts to keep you in their system. Eventually we'll get into that one eventually because I'm working on a couple cases right now to get people's arms rights back on things. And see, it's learning to talk. You don't call it a weapon. You don't call it a gun. You don't call it anything but arms. The way it's written in the Constitution. So you have to use the Constitution words. That is the main point, using the Constitution words, learning with the way it's written, the way it's been presented in the courts by the federal courts. Okay? And it's like, there we go again. It's like taxes. Taxes are voluntary. Okay, you type in on the internet, and I have it posted. I don't know if we have it on the link yet or not, but like taxes, theft by deception. A guy walks you through an hour and a half deal on taxes right on the internet. He walks you through and explains tax law to you. That is the one thing that learning what tax law is. Okay? And that's the one thing with tax law, it really comes down to the point of knowing if you're lawful or legal. If you actually read the tax code, and this goes to driver's licenses, registration, found in the payment fees, they're all taxes. So it's knowing how to present that tax levy that they're trying to put on you. And that's the one thing we're working on, some instruments to get out so they're done lawfully, legally, lawfully. Because legally is British government administrative rule. That is where it comes from. British administrative registration rules. That's legal. That was due to the Treaty of 1871 with the Civil War, because the South fought for the Civil War. And that's the one thing that most people don't comprehend, the real structure of our country. We have been lied so much, literally, by the structures of our court systems. We have been lied so much by the circumstances of what's going on around the court systems. And that is, like I said, you have to educate your children. It is your responsibility. And that way, if your children are educated and they comprehend this stuff, even what they call money, and even though it's a debt note, money is technically gold or silver or barter. We never had real money. I mean, everybody thinks that, in the 1800s we had all this money all around the structure. We didn't have money. Some of the big cities back then had what they called gold or silver coin stamps. But you got out in the woods and out in the wilderness, nobody had money out there. They would sit there and get their pelts and stuff and go barter it, exchange it. You helped your neighbor. You didn't expect something in return because you knew if something happened on your property, your neighbor or your land, your neighbor was going to be there to help you. And that's the one point we've got to get back. Mainly, the main part is growing food. That's the one thing that most people do not know do not know how to grow food. They don't know how to collect food. They don't know how to collect rainwater, because the states are trying to say that rainwater belongs to the state. The state didn't create the rainwater. The Great Spirit did, or as some people would say, God. I go by the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, the Creator. I don't go by foreign religion. And that's the one thing that we have a lot of people that they know foreign religion, but they don't know their Constitution. They don't know how it's applied. They don't know how to work it. I watch people going, oh, we need a new Constitution. We need this. We need that. We need to rewrite the structure. Well, the reason why people are saying this because they don't know how to deal with the structure they have in front of them. They don't know how to read it, or they're scared of it.
All participants are muted.
You're not supposed to be afraid of your territory. That's the 48 states. Why are you afraid of yourself? It's like I had a call because I filed on a judge, and the marshals called me up and said, are you threatening the judge? I said, how am I threatening a judge? I'm telling him the law that he has to go by. And then they're going, oh, are you trying to start war against the government, I said, no, we have elected and public servants. I know the damn system. I know the law. We have elected and public servants. So why would I wage war on myself? Because the first branch of government, if you truly read and comprehend the Constitution, is we, the lawful Americans. And everybody keeps going, well, Ed, why do you keep talking about the lawful bloodline? Your bloodline, and it goes by superior courts. 5 or more generations. It's written in the actual Constitution. And when it was written back in 1778, ratified, said that you had to be born here. Okay? And everybody goes, well, I was born on this land, so I have rights. No. That's called UF 8 Immigration Act. Read it. That even says in the Immigration Act that Muslims were banned in this country because the Marines and the Navy were formed to go after Muslims. This is the one thing that we have to start educating ourselves, knowing what the structure is. Our country is still very young. People do not know the structure of our country the way it was intended, and they don't. They don't get it. I watch a lot of these court cases, major court cases going on. Nobody's filing criminal charges on elected and public servants. They're not. They're not filing criminal charges. Oh, the district attorney's going to do this. The district attorney told me this. The district attorney told me that they have more rights than I do. The states have rights because the federal court gave them rights. Yes, they gave them rights over elected and public servants, registered church members, registered voters, and all immigration. And remember, immigration. all right, is a privilege to come to this country. Just because you're here does not mean you have rights to do anything you want in this country. And that's by federal law. You know, we're not changing federal law for people. No, we're not going to do that. We want to keep our Constitution. We want to make sure people have a contract with the Constitution. All right? Because Article 1, Section 2 is contract law. So, you know, it's like, you know, if you don't sit there and start
Q&A session has started.
Okay. If you don't comprehend...
All participants are muted. Q&A session is over.
Okay.
Sorry, had a slight mix-up with the keys, Ed. Sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem. But, you know, I mean, this is the one point that if you don't start standing up, educating yourself, I mean, I've got a file that I'm redoing on police departments where I can prove police departments are basically rent-a-cops. That's what they are. They're no more than a mall cop. They have a contract with the city. Okay, their contract to the city is to go out and collect money to pay off their personal debts that these senators, the city council, mayor, the city attorney, all these people put you in debt over. Now, if you are a citizen or a national, that's the one thing I do recommend to people. Do not claim to be a national or a citizen. And some people might argue with me over that one, but a citizen, and let me get over here. I know I have it pulled up here. A citizen, I'll get to this here in a minute. You know, a citizen does not have rights. They have privileges. The same thing when you sign that driver's license. You turn your right into a privilege. And I can't remember the U.S. Department of Transportation law off the top of my head, and we'll get that one posted up on the wall here pretty soon. But the Department of Transportation clearly states you do not need a driver's license to travel if you're not in commerce. All right? And they say, well, commerce is interstate. So, you know, that is the one thing that people have to, you know, comprehend, that commerce is you. If you are an American, lawful, and the reason why I say lawful bloodline, this is the one thing that people do not comprehend. You know, lawful bloodline means, and this was formed by the 14th Amendment. And if you actually read the 14th Amendment, it clearly states it. And I will read the actual law here in just a second of the 14th Amendment. So we want to clarify things so that way there is not a misguidance or confusion of what's going on. We do not want to have those type of things going on where things are confused. We don't want you confused. A lot of people are out there asking for money doing this stuff, and a lot of them who are asking for money are actually getting people in trouble. And that's the whole point. Me and Dave have made it very clear we don't want people in trouble. We're not out here trying to make a buck off you and put you in trouble. You know, that is the one thing we are not out to do. We don't want you in trouble. We want you to protect yourself. So anyhow, I've got this stuff posted in a couple court cases I just finished up, and the other one says, United States shall guarantee every state a union, a republic form of government, and shall protect each of them against evasion. That's even by senators, legislators, and application of the legislator or executive, that's the executive branch, where legislators cannot convert against domestic violence. So if the senators and House of Representatives are going against the Constitution, that is treason. And we can file treason charges on these folks. And that's what we need to do. I mean, the Bundy's case is a perfect example. They need to file treason charges not only on the officers, the district attorney, the aides of the district attorneys, and a judge. But a lot of people don't want to file because they think they know something more, and it doesn't work. The oath of office is quid pro quo contract of the U.S. consent. Article 6, Clause 2 and 3, Davis versus lawyer. All right, I'm reading you the oath of office where this is where public employees make their contract. I don't care if they're janitor, dog walker, anybody who even has a private contract with we the people. All right, that means they're a government contract. The minute they cash that paycheck, they are what they call foreign agents under the 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act. So if they are even lawful, they give up their lawful bloodline at that point for a paycheck. Which clerks, officials, or officers of the government pledge to perform, support, and uphold the United States and state constitution. I'm talking United States, not United States Incorporation. And that's the one thing when you write your paperwork, you always write United States Incorporation into it. You don't just put United States because that's an open thing. You don't put state, you have to put state of Oregon Corporation. If you're writing and you're referring to Oregon State of the original treaty that they had with the British government, for example, of 1846, then you write Oregon State. Otherwise, you write state of. That's the corporation name. That's when they formed it. And this is where you got to, trying to get this out. In return for substance, this is where the 1933 March 9th Bankruptcy Act comes in place. Wages, perks, benefits, proponents are subject to the penalties and remedies for breach of contract. So if they commit treason in this country, if they do something illegally, they are held liable. That is the point that you have to realize, that people are liable. And that is the one thing that these public servants are learning, And if we don't stand up, nobody else is going to stand up to these people. That's the one thing that people have got to get that through their head. Because if you're not educating yourself to stand up to your public servants, we have elected and public servants. That was the 1871 contract with the British government and the Vatican. Okay? This is the contract with the Vatican. And that's the one thing that people, please don't get me into Bible stuff, because most people know my feelings about that. That's a book that came into this country, invaded, and forced religion down our throats, natives. So when they gave us poison blankets and contaminated us, and then gave the Native Americans the Bible to pray for the ministers that were killing them. Sick. Treason under the Constitution at Article 3, Section 3. Remember, treason under the Constitution is Article 3, Section 3. That's what you want to file on your public servants who are committing treason. And that goes to Title 18 U.S.C. Sections 241, 242. So you want to file this. You want to read these things. They wrote it. They quote it. They wrote it. We quote it. Excuse me. So they wrote this stuff. We quote it. So that is the one thing that it's our responsibility to start quoting this stuff. I don't care if your child's 9 years old. When they're 11, they're going to know this probably better than you. They can spout it off at a minute's warning. Refusing to live by their oath place them in a direct violation of their oath. So if a district attorney says, oh, well, we don't have to go by the Constitution or that structure because the state has rights over the Constitution, I'll read that law here in a minute. Every state has to go by the Constitution no matter what. That is not only in the federal regulations, federal law. But, people, we're educating ourselves on this to educate you. Violation of their oath is not a cause of immediate dismissal and removal from office, but it is a federal crime. Federal law regarding regulating oath of office by government officials divided in 4 parts. All right, 4 parts. Executive orders. That's what the president writes, and that's defined in USC 3331. That I quote, Title 5, UCC 3331. Okay, and then you get into the oath of office, and that is UCC 3333. And this is one thing I recommend you to read these things, so that way you're looking up these things. The other one is 5 USC 73111, which explains and makes it a federal crime, offense, and violation of the oath of office. So if you're writing treason charges or going after a public servant for the right to travel, you have to write 5 USC 733 or 7311. You have to quote their laws, their structure back to them. You know, people say, why should I have to do that? They're supposed to know it. I don't have to apply that. I don't have to do that. Well, if you don't put it in record, and if it ever goes to Court of Appeals or stuff, you have no evidence to stand on. You have nothing filed. You don't have evidence to present to the Court of Appeals or to the federal court. Because if it's not in record, you have no evidence. It's called hearsay evidence, just like a public pretender or court-appointed attorney or any other attorney, because, like I said, attorneys belong to the British Auxiliary Register of the King and Queen of England. Federal law makes a careful distinction between natural born, and they're using the word citizen. And remember, citizen goes back to the 14th Amendment, where there was a conflict the way they wrote it, compared to the citizens of the United States. Now, in March 9th, 1933, FDR clarified the citizen structure in executive order, and it was clarified by the Federal Supreme Court, that a citizen is a slave of the corporation called the state or the federal corporation. They clarified it. So I never used the word citizen or national because Executive Order 2040 says nationals or citizens are enemy to the United States, 48 states, and that goes under the 17th Amendment dealing with treason. And if you read it, it clearly outlines that. And granted privileges. So if you're claiming to be a citizenship or citizen in anything or national, you are claiming citizenship of privileges or citizen of privileges or national of privileges. You have to revoke your privileges. If you're revoking your license, you have to go to the state with your letter, and the states usually have a form. Oregon has a form where I'm going through the 58 states too, looking for their forms. It does take a lot of work for one guy doing this stuff. If anybody else has got the stuff, please send it to me. Help me out so I can put the stuff together so we can start getting this moving a little faster. But if you don't get the state seal stamped on it, file it in your local court, okay? File it with the Sheriff's Department, hang it up on the public bulletin board. I do recommend filing it in museums. Museums could only technically preserve or show actual factual records. They cannot deal with hearsay. And that's the one thing that if you are a Constitution Republic, okay, you are not a citizen. Now, this law that I'm going by, that I'm reading, part of it was written in the court case in 1888. So back then, they were still trying to decide citizen. And a citizen is a legislative democracy. So if you're claiming citizenship, national, you are part of the democracy that technically is an enemy to this country when you actually read the laws of democracy and republic, not republican, republic. And they have a republican up here is what they wrote, but if you actually go through the court cases and by their administration, it says republic. And there's the song too. that our Red Skelton gets in, one republic. Doesn't say Republican, it says republic. And that's the one thing that people have to comprehend what the word republic means. Okay, there are no kings in this country. You know, like I said, at times I say I'm the king of my land. Well, I am the king of my land, but I'm not the king of my land when I walk off it. You know, I have the authority on my land. Nobody else does. That's my area, my rights, my structure. You know, and it's the same thing with you. And if there's not a man on the land, it depends on the relationship between the man and the woman. The woman is the queen of her land. And that's the one thing that people got to comprehend. Since the common use of the term person does not include the sovereign, statutes employing in phases are ordinarily constructed to exclude it. This is U.S. versus General Motors and Corporation. So if you're using person, person is an inanimate object. And when the judges use it in courts, they know it. They actually know this stuff. Most of them do. They play stupid. You know, that's the one thing. And statutes, employees, and the word generally consent as sovereign. And this goes to the Church of Scientology versus the Department of Justice. And that's the legal word person. And the Church of Scientology included and put the person word in place so that way it is an inanimate object. And you don't want to use the word person. When you talk, try to correct your English, man or woman, child. Because in that way, if you don't use the word person, it's not considered a legal term, man or woman. And that is the one point that I'm going to read this point to you. It is clearly established principle of law that attorney must represent a corporation. So if you put your rights to travel paperwork in, you've got it filed, you've done everything correctly, you claimed your rights to be lawful, and you are lawfully traveling. So when you go to court, and if they stuff and force you to go by a representative of the court, you hand them their corporation contract. So that corporation contract is what you wrote, what you had certified, what you passed, and always file it with the county and the Secretary of State too, like I have done. So that way, if you go to court, the corporation, hey, there's my corporation contract. So think about it. The corporation contract stands. Is being corporal and created of law. Is a creature of law, I mean. An attorney representative of artificial entity must support with the corporate charter. So remember, an attorney representing an artificial identity. That is your birth certificate. That is you. If you don't have your paperwork, you're an artificial identity anyways. So when you have your paperwork filed, now you got where he has to represent the corporation. And this is the one thing I was talking to a gentleman earlier tonight. A person acting as attorney for the foreign principal by federal law must be registered to act in principal behalf. And I'm going to give you the federal law here to look up. Foreign Agent Registration Act 22 U.S.C. 612. Okay? So if your public defender and your district attorney or your pretend attorney, whatever, is not representative, this is why Comey was fired. They had to fire him one way because they knew he was corrupt as a dollar bill is. And so they had to file something, and he wasn't registered. And not only that, Donald Trump came out in the news media 2 months ago and realized that 4 of his own attorneys weren't registered. So until they got registered, he had to basically let them go until they were registered. This court case is based on former President Robert F. Kennedy, 3-6 court case. Okay, Victor Responsworks, and he was the state attorney general at the time, versus President Robert F. Kennedy, 3-6 U.S. 605. Failure to file the Foreign Agent's Registration Statement goes directly to the jurisdiction lack of standing to be before the court first. So if you file the paperwork and go to the Foreign Administration Registration Act, file it, get a copy, even if it's electronically, get a copy, print it out, you turn that in the court, and the court has to go by that before they can go address any other issue first. If they don't go by that first, they're in violation of federal wartime law, and that's part of the Geneva Convention. And also, too, if they're not registered, goes directly in front of the courts. And if the judge does not deal with it, it's felony. Pursuant to 18 U.S.C. 219-951. The conflict of law, interest, and allegiance is observed. A lawyer cannot make a claim to your rights. So a lawyer cannot even technically register or represent you in court, because he cannot take a claim to your rights. If you sign your rights over to him, well, people do that, and then they wonder why they're in jail or other things happen, because they give their authority over to the attorney, and he takes that to court and goes against the court and files against you because you gave him authority. Also, too, if a judge does not go and represent himself correctly, you could always say objection in the court and fraud upon the court. And I'm trying to remember the other word. I'll think about it here. And contempt of court. Contempt of court. You could even say that to a judge. And you don't have to be bashful about that, you know. You could always say contempt of court and, objection, contempt of court. So long as you're making it for a record. Inhabitants live in cities, incorporated areas. I'm one of those that have made mistakes in some of my filings, learning and going through this process myself. I've used the word inhabitant, and after my extensive further research, an inhabitant, citizen, national, all that is under the same roof. And I'll get that up and read part of that to you and bring some of that to you here in just a second. And let me bring up the birth certificate. This is the one thing that, that people don't comprehend this point here on the birth certificate. A birth is a ship that has been born. Well, if you've ever had a boat or anything like that, you know that this is real. Okay, because a birth of a boat, you break a bottle of champagne or wine and you take it out. You don't do that on a kid, but, all right, a mother allegedly abandons the child at birth. As the informant on the certificate of live birth or birth certificate. So the state attorneys pick it up and assume ownership and control over your body while your straw man remains on file at the state registry office. And the doctor, under the doctrine of parent rights, the state is your daddy. This is why CPS and CPS and DCF agents are dispatched to take your seal, to take your property. So when your child is born, you have to file on your property rights. Your bloodline, your blood is your property. And so I'm working on a couple templates of that. We'll have that. I've done a few. People have filed that in the hospitals when they were giving birth. The people responded, didn't have the pediatrics didn't have a problem not giving the kids vaccines and stuff on it. They just let them leave, and then we got 30 days from when you leave the hospital to file your property rights with the state. Yeah, and people go, why should I have to file my property rights? Why should I have to do this? Why should I have to do that? It's called responsibility. If you don't want responsibility, don't be in the U.S. The Constitution, it gives you responsibility. All right? That is the one thing that we have. We have to be responsible. And if you don't want to be responsible, well, then you give your rights over to somebody else. You just hopefully that they don't put you in a home or something like that and turn against you. And that's the one thing that you really don't want to give your rights over. You know, and that's the one thing that we're supposed to be, like me and everybody else, you know, we're supposed to be responsible. We're not supposed to take advantage of the disabled, and I'll say the actual word instead of the words they use. I go by real words, not democratic created words, mentally retarded. We're supposed to protect them. We're not supposed to go after and make financial gain. And this is the one thing people don't comprehend, that when you go to court, okay, it's run by the United States Incorporation, Democratic Democracy, British Vatican court system, under the Treaty of 1213, that is from England. And that's where people say, oh, the Magna Carta, 1215 Magna Carta gives me rights. That is England law. We are not England. And I even have the stamp proof of that, 1993, where the Queen of England, that I paid to put in mainstream media, brought and filed in the House and Senate of Oregon, emailed around the country, put in other newspapers. Nobody disagreed with the stamp that the Queen of England put on the Constitution. It's the golden seal of the Queen that she put on the stamp of this instrument that I actually paid to have it actually publicized in a full-page ad. Nobody helped me with that. I mean, you know, I lost a lot of things by that. I could have done other things, but, you know, I'm looking at the one thing is if my countrymen are not protected. I am not a United States citizen. I am not a resident or an inhabitant of a franchise. Subject of word of property of, the chattel of, subject of jurisdiction of any monarch or any corporate commonwealth. People like to say, oh, I belong to a commonwealth state. Well, okay, that means you have no rights. Federal, state, territory, county, council, city, municipality, body, politics, and other government alleged created under authority of a constitution or other enactment, I am not subject to any legislative department or agency created by such authorities, nor to the jurisdiction of any employees, public, that's elected and public servants, employees, officers, or agents derived thereof. And agents derived thereof, that's even contractors, if they get a contract with a city or state. Contractors now are public employees. Authority, therefore, nor do any of the statutes, regulations, and such authorities apply to me or have any jurisdictions over me. If I don't cause personal or property damage, you know, if I call somebody a name, okay, sticks and stones might break my bones, but come on. California says if you don't use the word transgender now and somebody takes it offensive, you can go to jail for it. Free speech right there, Nazi Germany. That's Nazi Germany. You know, we're living this stuff today. We're living in hell. We are in a living hell today. Right now, we're living in hell. You know, when you have all these regulations that dictate that if you fart, I mean, kids even have been arrested in classrooms for farting in class because they were arrested because it was called offensive odor. And they were actually charged, excuse me, in court for offensive odor. California, cows fart. They had to put bags on the cows' behinds to sift the farts out. I mean, we're not even living in reality. And if that's the point with ethane, how come the city sewers are not setting up to run the sewers on that methane for free electricity? Supposed to get it anyway, so long as we're lawful. Public Law 7310. You know, so these are things that get it. I'm going to see if we got anybody who wants to speak. I don't know if Dave showed up or not. So we can open the floor up for a minute before we start getting into videos, and then I'll start going through that again.
All participants are unmuted.
Anybody would like to speak up? Dave, you there? Okay, I guess Dave is not here.
Well, this is Daniel.
Hey, Daniel, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm going to start out by saying I don't live in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to even go down there to mail a letter down to the U.S. Okay. The U.S. is a foreign corporation, and it doesn't belong on the soil of the USA. But I'm watching these people dance to the tune of these domestic terrorists that they're calling themselves building inspectors and policy men and whatever, but they're domestic terrorists. Mm-hmm. They operate in fear. They perform their functions through fear. People are afraid they have to have a license or they wouldn't buy one. If they weren't afraid, they wouldn't go get that damn license.
Right.
It's out of fear. They go get a building permit out of fear. If you don't go buy your building permit, they won't let you have electricity, and they'll triple the fine on you, triple the building permit, which is nothing more than a fine anyway. It's tax. And then they got this thing. They do this ex post facto thing. They'll issue a permit. You get halfway through a building, and the building code changes, and you're supposed to come up to the new code, which is ex post facto. But they're operating through fear, and that makes them terrorists. They're domestic terrorists operating on behalf of the corporation. And for the bigger part, Homeland Security is domestic terrorists. They're invading people's lives. They're running against the Constitution. They're walking all over the people. They're not subject to the law. They say they're not subject to the law. The courts, the so-called courts, the executive administrative offices that are calling themselves courts, have no use for a law. They walk all over the law. So they're nothing more than domestic terrorists. They're thugs upon the soil of the United States of America. And like I said, I don't live in the U.S. I try to stay the hell out of the U.S. That's a foreign place. It's foreign possessions on American soil. And anyway, I'll let it go at that. And you can put your 6 cents in or 12 cents or whatever you want to put on that, 2 bits on top of that. But to me, it's an operation of corporate domestic terrorists overriding the lawful bloodline Americans, we the people. And that disturbs me. I'll let it go.
Okay, thanks, Daniel, for your point. The one thing I have on my property around it is no trespassing warning to all government agents, officers, employees, and contractors. No entry on this property or into dwellings or other structures thereon is allowed without prior expressed permission of the owner unless an authorized officer of the court is carrying their possession and present an inspection of lawful court certified and proper warrant. And what that means, a warrant has to be issued by a grand jury of 12. It cannot be issued by a judge. Judge warrants are invalid. That's why they tried to put me in prison over and they lost that case.
Excuse me for interrupting, Ed. Those are not judges. If you read FP versus GE, those are executive administrators. They're not judges. They're acting as judges. They're saying they're judges, but as long as they're ruling on statutes, codes, and policies, they're not judges. They're executive administrators.
Technically, they're black robe popes. And if you go by the Vatican rules, they're black robe popes working for the Vatican.
Yeah.
So you are correct. They're administrators to the Vatican. And that I proved in 2006 on the Oregon State public hearings. And the only exception that I have on my warning is for postal employees in lawful or proper conduct of their normal business, or firefighters in the prevention of an actual fire on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So such agents and officer employees and contractors who violate this warning will be prosecuted to the full extent of recorded in law under state and federal statutes for operation illegally under color of law. And that's the one thing you should look up, what color of law is. And I don't know if we have that on the website yet, but we'll get the whole structure of color of law. So that
241, 242.
Say the code again?
241, 242. 48, 241, 242.
Oh, yeah, that's Title 18 U.S. Code.
Yeah, Title 18. 241, 242. And that pertains to the marriage license as well.
That's right.
That's
and if you want to do
a felony.
Right. And if you're going to get married, do a married contract. Do a contract.
Well, don't present yourself as a persona. Don't form a persona under the corporation. It's a private contract. It's not a corporate contract. If you form a corporate contract, then you've just opened your doors open to jurisdiction and relinquished all rights to the corporate state, which I don't live in the corporate state. I've never been in the corporate state. I'm not a member of the corporate state. I might have been on the soil of West Virginia state, but I've never been in the state of West Virginia.
Right, right. And that is one thing. A corporation contract even means a business contract with business partners.
Well, that's what they're forming, is a limited partnership.
Right, and limited partnership gives them the right to come in your door, too.
That's it. You know, that marriage under license is a limited partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that proceeds from that limited partnership is under the jurisdiction of the corporate state.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't recognize that, and they don't recognize that, you know, if I've went in there before and demanded to know who the legislative body was that passed a law prohibiting the religious ordinance of marriage. And mentioned Title 18, 241, 242, and rattled off the First Amendment to them, and they want me to go away and leave them alone. They won't address it in court either, by the way. They refuse to address it in court.
Mm-hmm. No, but that's one thing, too. You filed it in court, too, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I filed it with the county auditor, and I used it in a so-called divorce later on. I went in and asked for legal recognition of a lawful divorce. And that judge sat there in the courtroom and issued everybody else and granted everybody else a divorce. You know, he was the grantor. Mm-hmm. In mine, I was asking for legal recognition of a lawful divorce, and all he could say was, I'm going to recognize your divorce. He had no jurisdiction over it.
Right.
All he had the authority to do is to recognize it. And he did recognize it, but he waited till I was the last one in the courtroom so there would be no witnesses.
Well, yeah. They do that, and also, too, you know, they say, oh, you can't tape record in the courtroom. Well, yes, you can. Federal law says you can. State of Oregon, I've beaten 3 cases where people videotaped me and recorded in case.
Well, I've never been in the state of Oregon. I've lived on the soil of Oregon State, but I've never been in the state of Oregon, and I've argued cases against the state of Oregon on the soil of Oregon State, and I've been to the Supreme Court of Oregon.
Thank you for the correction. You're all right. That's the way it has to be played.
You keep saying the state of Oregon, and that's a dangerous thing to say.
I know it's very dangerous because I like to have people correct me when I say things. I do that for a purpose, to see if people are paying attention.
Well, that's why I said something about here in the U.S. is because I don't live in the U.S. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I live on the soil of the United States of America. And
Right.
one of the American states at a time, I can't live in 2 or 3 of them at a time, and I move around a bit, but, you know, I still live on the soil of the United States of America. And I explain to people all the time that if we go down to the post office and we get in a fist fight, they're going to call the Federal Postal Police because we're in the U.S. We're on U.S. possession.
Right.
But if we step across the street and get in a fist fight, they call the sheriff. Because we're in the USA. We're not in the U.S. any longer.
Mhm. True. So anyhow, Daniel, I want to get to the first video that I want to get played so people can listen to the way this.
Go at it. Go at it. I just thought I would. When I heard that U.S., I had to say something.
I from you, Daniel. You're paying a good attention to everything, and you come out with good words out of you.
Well, you take care of yourself, Ed, and go ahead and let's hear this video. Maybe you got something to offer.
Yeah, well, at least I like to think maybe I do. So, but
Well,
anyhow.
that's why I listen to you, because sometimes you have something to offer.
Oh, thank you. Anyhow, I want to get to the first video where this gentleman, David Hall, was basically putting himself deeper into the jurisdiction of the court. He had a concept of what he's doing, and I know I've actually been in this guy's shoes a few years back where I made a similar mistake. And never say you are a sovereign citizen. That's an oxymoron. Either you're sovereign or a citizen. There is no two divide. You know, you can't use an oxymoron in court because they'll nail you every time to the jail cell for that one. So, but anyhow, if my producer's ready, I'd like to hit the first video of David Hall. I think it's about 11 minutes. And if we get it on the YouTube channel, that'd be nice too. If not, that's the way it works. But if we get on both, because we should listen to the way this guy and the judge was doing it, because the judge was just letting him put his foot in his mouth deeper and deeper and deeper, and he was agreeing with certain things of the judge and didn't realize when he was agreeing with the judge the way he did, he actually kept himself in jail. And this guy, I think it was like his third or fourth Dewey he got. So
all participants are muted.
So whenever you're ready.
I'm sorry, they're 4 and 5 or no bond. I informed your attorney. He knows about your court date, sir. Thank you. David Hall.
Mr. Hall has declined the services of the public defender, Your Honor.
Mr. Hall, DUI, expired driver's license.
Good morning, Judge. Judge, I need to say how I'm appearing today, sir.
Hold on, wait. Let me finish. Hold on.
Did we lose it?
All right. Hold on, Mr. Hall. Sir, you've been charged with DUI, expired tag, attaching a plate not assigned, license suspended, failed to drive in a single lane. Just give me a moment, sir. Let me look at your driving record. Okay?
Sir, I haven't said for the court how I'm appearing today,
well,
sir.
I'm not asking you yet. Just give me a moment, all right? I need to look at your record. Okay, I'm looking here. Failure to pay traffic tickets back in 2011. Open container out. Okay. All right, sir. Hold on. Does this gentleman, Mr. David Hall, does he have any criminal record?
Yes, Judge, and he also has pending felony DWLSs in front of...
Okay, what's the pending felony DWLS?
Use on... Okay, there's a few. 1 second.
I'll give you a moment to talk in just a moment, sir. Hold on, Mr. Hall.
The pending felony is 14016-582 CF10A.
Okay.
He also has pending misdemeanor DWLSs in front
What is that? What are they?
Judge Evans. Case number 14...
Wait, 14 what?
053909 TC30A.
TC30A, okay.
And that's it.
That's it?
And a criminal history.
Now, Mr. Hall, so would you wanted to say something?
Yes, may I speak, Judge?
Well, don't tell me about what happened or did not happen regarding the DUI, but if you want to tell me about something
I'd like
else,
to state some things.
Go ahead.
I'd like to state some things for the record. Thank you, Judge. Judge John Hurley, I do accept your oath of office here today for the record, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Does
sir.
this court take judicial notice of your oath, sir? With all due respect.
Let me see. I take judicial notice of my own oath. Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, today I'm appearing as the agent and settler for David Hall.
Okay. Okay. Could you get Mr. Hall for me then, sir? Where is he?
I go by that name, sir. My name sounds exactly like the defendant's, and I'm here to settle that matter today.
So are you and David Hall one and the same person?
I'm not a person, I'm an individual. David Hall is a person,
Okay.
I am
Are
the
you
agent to
and
that
David
name.
Hall one and the same individual?
I go by the name David Hall, sir, and I'm
Okay.
here about that matter today.
So you go by the name David Hall. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. The person who goes by the name of David Hall is standing in front.
I'm the individual.
You're
I
the
am an
individual.
individual, not a person.
You're not a
Yes, sir.
person.
David Hall is a person. I am a private individual. David Hall is a person under color of law, sir.
Okay, where's David Hall then? The person David Hall.
He exists on paper, sir. David Hall is a corporation. This action is under color of law, sir, and I do understand that. I am here in my real capacity as the private individual for that name, and I'm here about that matter.
You're the
and I'm happy
private.
to
You're
settle
the
it.
private individual, David Hall.
I'm the settler, sir.
You're the
I'm
settler,
the settler.
David Hall.
I'm the settler to David Hall, sir.
Are you the
I'm
private
happy to-
individual, David Hall?
Yes.
Good. Okay, we got that straight. We agree on that. Okay. Now, David
May I,
Hall,
sir?
David Hall, the private individual. I'm looking at your driving record right now. Multiple failures to pay traffic tickets for the individual, David Hall, not the person. But, sir, what I'm going to do...
Can you clarify,
Go
sir?
ahead.
I'm not sure I understand that, but I'm happy to settle this matter right now if somebody will make presentments. Nobody has made presentment, and I've asked numerous times, and for the
When
record,
you say presentment, what do you mean by presentment?
presentment of the charging instrument for set-off and settlement, sir. I am the settler.
I just told you what it is. I told you what your I told you what the individual
Presentment,
David Hall did.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I will require somebody to make me a presentment of the charging instrument on paper so that I may settle that matter. I'm here as settler, and I'm happy to settle this charge
We're not
right now.
We're not settling. Today's not the day to settle matters for these kind of charges. All right. We don't settle them today. All right.
May I say something else for the record, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I am secured party under a UCC filing at the Secretary of State, 201-308-717-006.
Okay.
I am secured party to David Hall on the record and through a filing at the Secretary of State, sir. I appear here today as the settler agent, not the person, but the individual. And I don't think I should have you understand the difference between a person and an individual.
And you're the individual, but you're not the person. Is that correct?
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
I'm going to write that down. Settler. Agent. An individual. But you're not the person. Got it. I think, I remember, I think it was last week you told me this too. And I was a little uncertain, but it's all become very clear now. Now, okay, the settler, the agent, the individual, but he's not the person. Okay, so does the settler, the agent, the individual have any money in the bank?
Yes.
Okay, how much money does the settler, the agent, the individual have in the bank?
I'm not certain at this time, sir.
Okay.
Only that I will give it an affirmative that there is money in a bank account.
Okay. And how long has the settler, the agent, and the individual lived in Broward County?
25 years, sir.
Okay. Does the settler, agent, individual own any property in Broward County other than personal effects?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, Does the person own any property or have any money in the bank? If you know.
In conjunction with myself, sir, in conjunction with myself, we both have. Yes, I'm the agent for that account also.
Okay, got it. Okay, so now, here's what we're going to do. The settlor, the agent, the individual, and maybe even the person, David Hall, has been charged with DUI. A DUI while the settlor, the agent, and even the person, David Hall, was out on bond on 2 cases, 1 felony and 1 misdemeanor, for license suspended. So the court believes that the settlor, the agent, the individual, and even the person, David Hall, represents a danger to the community because the settlor, the agent, the individual, and even the person continues to drive without a valid driver's license, in fact, a suspended driver's license in the state of Florida. And so, that being said, the court is going to...
May I make a correction, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm traveling. You said that you used the term driving, and I was traveling, sir. Traveling.
Okay. All right. So the settlor, the agent, the individual, or the person, David Hall, for traveling on a public highway or public road in the state of Florida, was allegedly doing so without a valid driver's license, and has done it several times in the past. So today...
This is alleged, sir?
Yes, sir, it is alleged.
Allegedly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So today, the court's going to set the settlor, the agent, the individual's bond, and even the person's bond today on count 4 at $10,000 because the settlor, the agent, the individual, and the person has not stopped driving, even though the settlor, the agent, the individual, and the person continues to drive without a driver's license. So, that being said, count 1 is $500, count 4 is $10,000, and the court will revoke the bond for the settlor, the agent, the individual, and even the person of David Hall on 14-016-582-CF10 and 14-05-3909-TC30A. Both cases will cause the settlor, the agent, the individual, and even the person, David Hall, not to be able to be released from the Broward County Jail until further notice of the court. So,
may I post bond, sir?
Well,
is there any other?
Are you asking me as the settlor, the agent, the individual, or are you asking me as the person?
Sir, I'm asking as the individual appearing before you today about this matter.
Well, the individual, the settlor, the agent, the individual, or the person can post the bond. However, the settlor, the agent, or the individual, David Hall, will not be released in any event because this court is revoking the bond on a felony case and a misdemeanor case on the settlor, the agent, the individual, and the person, David Hall.
Where's my remedy, sir?
Well, whose remedy are you asking for? The settlor, the agent, the individual, or the person?
I'm asking for the opportunity.
Who are you speaking on behalf of right now?
Sir, I don't understand that question. I believe that you're trying to confuse me now.
No, I'm not.
I'm simply separating myself from the person. They are 2 different entities, and I know that.
The court is not viewing you as 2 different people. The court is viewing you as
one
entity
sir?
For the purpose of these cases.
Then what entity are you referring to me as?
Because I'm referring to the David Hall, who's the settlor, the agent, the individual, and the person.
I'm not the person, sir.
Okay,
I am not
the person, David Hall. Tell him he's not leaving jail either, all right?
Sir, then may I ask what my remedy is? Can you provide me a remedy so that
the
I
remedy is, you don't really have a remedy where you could appeal it to the 4th District Court of Appeal.
How long am I going to be held, sir?
Until
I would like
another
to settle
judge
this matter.
tells you can be released.
I would like to settle this matter, sir.
We're not going to settle it today.
Then I'm being denied for the record, I'm being denied my remedy.
What do you think your remedy is?
My remedy is being denied. For the record, I am the real individual, and this action is under color of law, and I don't understand this color of law action.
Okay. Well, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Come on. Down the middle. Let's roll. It's over.
All right. Sorry about that, Mr. Miller.
That's it, Ed.
Okay. Thank you. Anyhow, I'd like to bring up the point where he keeps arguing individual. So I was bringing up earlier, in their administrative rules and law, if you're claiming to be including an individual, you are claiming to be a person. That's why I personally always say lawful bloodline American. That way there's not a confusion. That way I'm not part of their corporation, because an individual is structured as a national citizen. That's why, like I said, I learned the hard way in a couple of things I did of writing inhabitant. Because an inhabitant is still a state corporation in this state, whatever state it is. And that's the point that we get confused on this, because we know that the legal terminology they play on us all the time screws us. And this is the point of going into court and presenting yourself knowing if you're lawful or legal. So it doesn't matter if you're a legal citizen from another country, it's the same circumstances. So when you're going in and presenting yourself as an individual, type up and look at individual, or look on our sites. We have the laws that we're posting up so people can look at it without a conflict of interest. It is knowing how to present yourself in court. Believe me, I've personally had a lot of hard knocks myself. I've watched tons of videos. I've gone through and listened to a lot of these people that have written things up and gone through their structure thinking I was doing things right myself. And then I realized that it's the wording that is done. And some of these people who are on even Facebook are attorneys doing this stuff, setting it up so that way they know to keep you in your system, because they know that what they're putting up is that people are going by it. So they know that people are not claiming that they are lawful, and that's what I was reading under the 14th Amendment. You know, I know they use the word citizen in part of it, but it's a trick word. They do that to keep you in. This is the one thing, how they keep to work on things to keep you in the system. This next video we're going to play, I would like you to listen to the way that this gentleman handled himself. He answered everything in questions. And these are YouTube videos, but also, too, these are court record videos. So, by law, they're supposed to be public record. So, that's why we're saying that we cannot go through some of this structure of being, or the maritime system, where they can try to go out the Privacy Act, because it's public record. You know, so, I mean, I'm using the instead of doing another word, because I know the count keeps going up. And I don't have a problem with that. But the fact is knowing the terminology. We get a lot of these words out there that are used to conform us, twist us around to keep us in their system. And these judges know it. You just heard how a judge let this man stay in the system. The guy sat there and kept on arguing with him, and the judge says, okay, you're an individual, I'll go along with it. Let me write it down for record. So you're claiming to be an individual, so you're claiming to be part of the state corporation. So that's why I just say lawful bloodline. You know, I just stay with that. Lawful bloodline American, stay out of it. Even though some terminology uses American as part of the system of the United States of America, or American, as some might say. But it's using the terminology so that way you are not caught up into it. And if you end up in a court of appeals, you've got an argument piece. So when you go bear hunting, you've got to be smarter than the bear. And that's the best I can say it. I've been hunting for many different food resources. I'm not going to call them game, because that's where they call it a game warden. I'm not going to call it game because I'm a subsistence hunter. I'm a subsistence fisherman. I'm a subsistence food gatherer. I go out for my food resources. I don't go the privilege to pay myself or the privilege to feed myself is what I'm saying. And it is knowing these circumstances. Because, see, it's up to you to know this stuff, to clarify. Yes, we've all been in jail. Most of us have. Over stupid stuff like this gentleman made on his statements that he didn't comprehend. He has some comprehension of what the direction he thinks he's saying, but doesn't know exactly what he's saying to the court. You know, he's probably went through one of these paid programs. So, I mean, the thing that gets to me about a lot of these attorneys on Facebook that says, I can beat your case, and then they want to charge you. My attitude, and I've asked a lot of these attorneys on Facebook and stuff, after you won a case, did you go back after criminal charges against the court? The people that kidnapped them, held them for hostage, caged the animal, cruelty to animal. Oh, no, that's not my deal. I got him off the charges. And some of these guys charge $1,500 to $10,000 for people, minimum. Advice from one is, what was that? One from one of them on the internet was very simple. You know, my basic charge to even look at things is $750. You know, I mean, the one thing is that me and Dave have never charged anybody anything. I mean, I just got through writing 2 court cases the last couple of weeks. A lot of research going into it. You know, proving the facts that are not hearsay. That is the major part. Proving things are not hearsay. You know, I am like, one of the cases I'm dealing with is, you know, I'm not your citizen. You know, but you cannot use certain words like this guy was using, as you heard in the tape. This guy was putting himself in their jurisdiction, and he didn't even realize he was doing that. And that is a frustration that we all live because we learn by hard knocks. The one thing I quote to people, please, I know people that will go in and use the Bible in court structures. You are going in front of the black robe Pope. These men and women know the Bible. They were raised on the Bible. The Bible is your court system. They know it, and people don't comprehend it. Attorneys know it. They live that way. That's how they make money. That's called a rent-a-cop. Police make money on these things like this. So it's up to us to work together. And it's like Dave and I have written affidavits, and we tell people, print them, autograph them, support them, send them to Congress, send them to Trump. Okay? And once you start sending this stuff to the agencies and filing the charges on them, they can't run and hide. You know, I'm glad that Comey, former FBI director, you know, made his mistakes by not registering. You want their registration. If they say they're not registered, file on them. Immediately they're not registered. They're going to say, oh, we don't have to register. And that's what I tell people. Yes, they do. And let me get back over here. I'll read the law again to you where they have to register. See, this is the facts that we have to go by. It's like David and I say it. They wrote it, we quote it. And that's the point where you have to comprehend these facts where they wrote it. Now we have to quote their own words. They can't change these administrative rules because if they start changing the administrative rules, they know that they're going to end up in deep trouble or we're going to be in civil war. They are trying to provoke civil war, even like the Virginia fake runover that they just had in Charlottesville. Like the other one, they had the big shootout at the school that turned out to be an FBI fraud. Brain fart will come to me. God, I've talked about that many times, and now I'm having a brain fart over it. brain fart over the school that just had that mass shooting with the students, and then when you watched it, still having a brain fart. I'll come back to that in a minute. But when you watch these people, they're paid actors. And paid actors have been nailed on it, and some of these paid actors are coming out and publicly stating this stuff. And let me re-quote this to you. Okay, the original structure of this was in 1840, before the Civil War. And then after the Civil War. Every state law must conform in the first place to the Constitution of the United States, and then to subordinate constitutions of the particular state. All right, so if your state has a constitution, read your constitution. The Constitution of the federal government, the British government, under a treaty that we have in 1871, with the British government, the Elected and Public Employees Union with the Vatican versus the 1778 ratified original 1776 Constitution applies. Each state constitution, subordinate constitution, each state ended up in a treaty with the British government. Each state was in a treaty with the British government. The federal government, if you look it up, is the British government. Okay, and if it infringes upon the provisions of either, it is so far void. Houston versus Moore, 18 U.S. 1-5 LED 191840. Okay, and then the other one, it is a binding truth. Nothing can destroy the government more quickly than a failure to observe its own laws, or worse, in disregard of the charter of its own existence. Now, what that's referring to is the state constitutions have to apply with the federal constitution of 1840, and that's Mape versus Ohio, 367 U.S. 643. 659, and that was done in 1961. Then the other court case is Harris versus New York U.S. Supreme Court, 401 U.S. 222, 1971. So, like I said, it's very important that we comprehend that. And with that, I want to get to this other video. It's about 7 minutes, 6.5, 7 minutes long. And you can listen to how this gentleman handled himself in the state of Washington. I believe this was over a parking ticket. And what we were playing tonight are the court hearings and videos from the courts. So I'll wait for that one to go.
Okay, but the defendant isn't here?
Well, I believe there's a mistake. I was led to believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name, so when can I speak to the claimant? Who's claiming I made a claim to that name?
What are you talking about?
Well, I came to the so-called court because
Along with that order, he needs the one finding. Okay, I can do that. Okay. So you're a witness for the person, you're not actually the named defendant?
Well, I was led to believe the name belongs to the United States. The United States is the owner of it.
Well, if that person isn't here, they'll be found committed for failing to appear.
Failing to appear? Who's claiming that?
If that person isn't here, and no order is entered on their behalf, and they're not presented at contested hearing, then they will be found committed for failing to appear.
How can a name answer you?
So what you're saying is you'd like to contest?
Well, I'm just a witness. I believe there's a mistake. I believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name. I came to you guys to correct this mistake.
Is he going to sign the committed one? I think so. Okay. Alright, okay. So signing off where it says defendant. We just need to vote the orders together. Either that person or you.
For that name, I came here to give first-hand testimony. And I believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name. So when can I speak to that claim?
Well, if they're not here, they can't consent to go to contested hearing, so you won't be called as a witness.
Will it be known to use that name?
You have, so you
Yeah.
are the defendant.
How can it be a name? Are you the claimant or who's the claimant?
Are you talking about the claimant? I represent the plaintiff.
You represent the claimant, right?
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you spoke to the claimant?
You're listening to me right now.
Well, when was the last time you spoke to the claimant? Somebody's claiming something, right? Is somebody claiming that there's a controversy in concern to that name?
Okay, so that person will just be marked as failing to appear.
Did I just give you first-hand knowledge that I've been known to use that name?
You can either talk to me,
Well,
and we can work out a deal.
How can I have a name or how can I own a name? Can you explain that to me?
Okay, we'll save you for the end.
Sure.
Okay. So it looks like you were given a citation for expired meter.
You mean the name was charged, right?
So was there anything wrong with the meter?
You mean the name? You were talking about the name? Or are you talking about me?
Let's skip ahead and talk about the meter. Was there something wrong with it?
Well, I want to ask you, do you have any first-hand knowledge that I am that name? I mean, I believe there's a mistake. I came to the court here because I was led to believe that somebody here, there's some claiming that I made a claim on that name. So I was wondering, how am I liable for that name? Who owns that name? Because I've been known to use it, but who owns it? How am I liable for that name? And I would like to deal with this matter honorably. Where's the proper notice? Where's the meeting of the minds? That I agreed with the claimant that I am the name or that I own the name. I mean, if I can meet with the claimant, I'd be glad to. What is he that he can give me first-hand knowledge?
So it looks like the citing officer cited a two-door Lexus with license plate 5, and that is registered to the person who was cited.
Okay, and who does the officer work for?
The city of Spokane.
Okay, that's who he claims he represents?
No, he does represent.
Okay, so is the city of Spokane the claimant? Where is it the city?
We're the plaintiff.
Plaintiff, and who's the plaintiff? Is it the plaintiff the
Is
claimant?
the city of Spokane.
Okay, so the city of Spokane, is the city of Spokane claiming anything? That there's a controversy?
That the meter was expired in violation of the Spokane Municipal Code for the vehicle that is registered to Mr. Driver.
Okay, so do you have first knowledge that the city of Spokane said this? Because
I didn't issue the citation, if that's what you're asking me.
I'm trying to understand who is making the claim, because obviously somebody's making a claim, right?
The city of Spokane, and
Okay.
I'm just here to prosecute that claim.
Okay, since the city of Spokane, in your testimony, is the claimant, when can I meet that claimant?
Right now.
Right now?
Mhm.
Are you the city of Spokane?
Yes. For the purposes of this case, yes.
So are you the city of Spokane, or you claim to represent the city of Spokane?
I prosecute for the city of Spokane.
So you represent the city of Spokane, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you claim to represent it. And now, when's the last time that you've spoken, that you got first-hand knowledge from the claimant, that the claimant told you that there's a controversy?
So we can keep doing this, which it's like one way or the other.
I would love to deal with this matter honorably. I'm just asking for the proper notice. Where is the proper notice? Where's the meeting of the minds?
So meeting of the minds is a term that's used in contract law.
Okay, so when did I make a contract with the city of Spokane?
When you parked on the streets.
do you have first knowledge that I parked there?
The vehicle that is registered to you was the one that was cited.
To me, what's that name? Because I was led to believe that that name, the owner of that name, is the United States. Allegedly, I've been told that I am that name, but do I have any first-hand knowledge of it?
Here's the thing. So the problem with expired meter citations is that they issue so many of them that they don't take photographs. Photographs are inherently necessary in order for the city to prosecute these claims. So because I don't have that, I don't believe in the case, and I therefore have an ethical duty not to pursue.
So you believe this matter is settled then?
Yes. Yeah, if only I had pictures.
Well, could pictures be hearsay too?
Some pictures are hearsay. So for example, diagrams, like something an expert might draw up, that could be considered hearsay.
Let me ask you this though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if you had a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would the picture be able to give first-hand knowledge, first-hand testimony that that's what happened?
Yes. Because we have a local rule, IRLJ 3.3C.
So you believe a picture can talk?
Yes.
How is the picture be able to talk? Are you gonna put a picture to the witness then? You know what I'm getting with this?
I'm sorry?
You know what I'm getting with this?
Yeah, I understand. It's a little bit more nuanced. I mean, if it's something that you like talking about, I recommend law school.
But anyways, if you believe I offended you, please forgive me.
No, you're fine.
But I'm afraid to go.
All right, Ed, wake up.
Thank you. I'm awake. I just want to make sure that was the total end of it, to clarifying. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, you're fine. Basically, they ended the court case. He walked out. So it is knowing how to ask questions to the black robe judge. Why do they wear a black robe? It goes back to the black robe pope. And there's definitions that we'll have for pretty soon up on the site here, new.org and trackers, explaining this information to the general public. Because this is the whole point about knowledge. And how the court systems work, too, I would like to bring to your attention, there's a wonderful movie I recommend for people to watch. It's called Interstate 60. The full movie, it's 151 minutes long, and it's well worth watching. Okay, it explains your alleged court system to you. And that is the one thing. Remember, it's alleged. These people are sitting there as road pirates, rape, robbing, and pillaging this country because they couldn't sit there and beat us at war, control us, tell us how to dictate to us for us to live, and their British administrative rules. And once you start comprehending British administrative rules, and I will say this even though I got people who tell me, Ed, quit going on the Bible. The Bible is from England. People say, well, our forefathers went to the Bible. Well, if they went by the Bible, they would have stated the Bible was the law, not the Constitution. That's why they say freedom of religion. I say freedom from religion, but it says freedom of religion. Basically, in a sense, means the same thing. You know, I don't want somebody's religion belief. I don't want to be part of their religious belief. I'm a man that goes out and hunts and fish and plays in the woods. I want the woods to sit there. George Bush, when he was running for office, senior, stated his biggest political speech, and most people probably don't remember it, and if you do, you know, said we're going to go basically by man's law, not the law of the jungle like it's been and was. That was a statement. We want the law of the jungle because in that way it gives you the right to defend your family. It gives you the right to defend your home. The law of the jungle gives you the right to defend your family and home. Let me clarify. Man's law does not. Man's law clearly states that I shall wait for a police officer come to my door and give me permission. That's what man's law says. That's what man's Bible says, too. Man's Bible was written by man, not God. If God wrote the Bible, why would he put the devil in the Bible? People say, oh, well, we need good and evil. Would God, a creator, actually put good and evil together? Why would he sit there and torment us in that fashion, make it a living hell that you and I live today? Today, going on the streets is no different than Adolf Hitler, Nazi Germany. No difference. Cops shoot you. They beat you up. They do these horrendous things. Remember, they're rent-a-cops. Technically, cops don't have authority. The only law enforcement in the entire 48 states that have authority is called marshals. Nobody else has authority but the United States Marshals. Law enforcement authority, and we have that on the site. We have court cases on it that clearly states the facts of it. That's why I say, you know, I'm not your citizen. I'm not a United States citizen, resident, or inhabitant. I will not use the word individual because that's a legal word. And look in Black's Law Dictionary what individual reads. Yeah, and I have that clearly written in some of my instruments outlining the actual words, especially the words, the structure I'm going to be putting up on our site on a case I just finished up the other day. Started out to be 80 pages, turned out to be about 141. 47, I think. So, I mean, and this is a point that, you know, I mean, I even wrote the whole structure about police departments in this, the case, the treaties of 1871 in it, by their own records. I even have the court cases dealing with the taxes that are legal and lawful. I even read you the structure where elected and public servants are liable to pay taxes because they get a paycheck. See, man and woman are supposed to be food gatherers, hunt and grow food, take care of their families. We're not supposed to be out there for the corporation fight. I mean, we got a storm that's going through in Texas. How come Texas never prepared for water, food resources for hurricanes? They're right in the area. But now they're charging for a case of water, $25 for a case of water, $19 for a case of water. Normally when you go to the store, it's $209, maximum $279. Now they're charging anywhere from $20 to $30 for a case of water. Supply and demand. That's your corporation. And then we got to go by the other part. We know HARP is out there, so what is HARP truly doing to us? How far is HARP running our weather? You know, the earthquake and what happened in Japan, some people try to say it was HARP. And that is the point of making circumstances of this. Is stepping out of the movie, watch the production, figuring how it was written, figuring why people are doing what they're doing. And that's our responsibility to educate the children so they're not caught up in these games. And we don't want to be caught up in these games. That is the one thing we don't want to be caught up in games. You know, I mean, we got all these major hurricanes and floods, all these major things that happen like California flood. I remember watching a California flood in Southern California last year, watching cars floating down I-5, I-17 or something like that, floating down the river of the highway because the water is floating them down. How come we don't prepare ourselves to this? How come we're not educating ourselves to grow food, collect rainwater, have food storage that we can our own food? Why are we so dependent? You know? That's like diapers called depends. We're depends on the store. We're depends on this. They're cutting down our trees and our woods and our forest lands. Now we don't have food. You know, we have the Fukushima, the radiation destroying from Washington through the Washington, California, Oregon, Alaska coast. Pacific Northwest is full of radiation. That's the one thing we're living with this. So it's our responsibility to protect ourselves. These elected and public officials without rape, robbing, and murders wouldn't have a job. Elected and public employees' jobs have increased over 400%. Over 400% since 25 years ago. I mean, we got watershed councils we never had 25 years ago. Now they say they have authority over your water systems, your rivers, and your creeks when they don't. And those things were created because people went to colleges and universities and they couldn't get a job. So because they couldn't get a job, they created nonprofit organizations. So that way they could write it off. And then when they don't get jobs or donations, they write it off at the end of the year as employment. That's what 501c3 through 9s are. You know, churches don't pay anything. Why are churches exempt? Oh, because the churches are running your court system. When you go to court and you wonder why the pastor or the minister are talking about a case in court or something like that, and people don't know who it is, but the guy in that pew does know what he's talking about. The guy in the pew knows exactly what he's talking about. But he says he's not talking about anybody in his church when in fact he is. You know, they keep close contact with the police department. Romans 13 states, I shall do what elected and public employees tell me to do. I am not to divert from the elected and public employees. It says it. Romans 13 of your Bible says it. That's why I won't deal with that stuff. I am an ordained minister. I know the flyers and stuff I used to get, but I separated myself out of democracy. Your religious is a democracy system. True, fact, and realistic. A democratic system is commonwealth. Says that the man next door to me should not have more than I do. He shouldn't have more water. He shouldn't have more food. If something happens, he should die just as fast as I do. That's what it says. I just don't comprehend how people cannot see the mind control that we truly are living under. I'm not going to say comprehend because this is under. You can't overstand this one because if you're going by it, you're living under it, so you shall do what thou was told. Like I watched a lot of signs that were popping up the last few years on churches. A free mind is a dangerous mind, and this is what churches were posting up on their church walls and in front of churches. If you're not a religious man and believe in religion and you have a free mind, you're a dangerous man. And they're posting this on churches, saying if you want freedom and if you want to believe that you're free, you're a dangerous man. You know? I mean, and so it's like learning so we're not putting ourselves in their jurisdiction. Even though by law, a cop cannot put you in jurisdiction. But these cops are psychologically taught by words, twisting words to get you in their jurisdiction. Like in the words of David Hall, I'm an individual, and the judge says, I want to write this down. I want to clarify that you're claiming yourself as a citizen. You know, he didn't comprehend what he was learning or from who, what, why. He wasn't comprehending. He wasn't learning. So that's why I say, you know, we post they wrote it, we quote it, proper education, and this is the point that if we don't properly educate your kids, it's like if you are 5 or more generations writing up your land contract to go to your children. If you are not 5 or more generations, you're writing up your contract so your bloodline educates your bloodline. If you are a legal citizen, because there is no immunity for immigration. I'll guarantee you that, even though I don't care what the terrorist Obama put in place. The DREAM Act is not a dream act. And remember, dream is a fantasy. Everybody has dreams. Are they real? Do you believe in a ghost? Do you believe in dragons? Do you believe in fairy tales? The Tooth Fairy is a good one. Do you believe in Santa Claus? What's Santa Claus? Santa Claus is your mommy and daddy or somebody else. Easter, Easter Bunny. Remember, bunnies migrate real quickly. They make more bunnies rapidly than basically any other mammal on this planet. So it's stepping out and looking at how this structure works, looking at the production of the world, the corporate world. It's a production. So if they can get you believing, that's why I don't have TV. This is why I don't comply with a lot of stuff. This is why, I am not their citizen. I won't comply with their administrative rules. And a city is a corporation. Some of these cities were founded in the late 1800s in our territories. They knew this. This was set up. This was done. This was no accident. And this is where we got to comprehend this and work together. We've got many people out there with court cases that they learning the hard way the way they wrote them. Now it's putting them in the correct form, going back and charging the people that violated their bloodline rights. But first you have to make sure that you file a claim on your bloodline. Make sure that is secure claim, what they call secure claim creditor. Because either you're the creditor of it, like this guy was talking about, he's the creditor. Hey, I've done that same stupid thing going in and say, I'm the creditor of this. And it's like, and basically the judge says, okay, so you're using this word and you think that it means this instead of sovereign. And everybody goes, well, only God could be sovereign. He's the only God and sovereign. No, God is not the only one that's sovereign. Remember, if that's true, aren't we all the image of God? That's what your Bible says. The Constitution of the 48 states gives men and women equal rights. A woman has a right to her body. Nobody has a right to tell a woman what to do. Even if she's pregnant, man, and if your Bible says God shall judge and take care of that woman, then believe in your own statements or quit calling somebody else a liar when you're the liar. Because if you cannot believe that God's going to judge that woman for taking so-called life or murdering life, it's a parasite in her body. Look, the term a parasite is. Most people know what a parasite is. A child is a parasite in a woman's body. Figure it out, folks. Quit going through these emotions and terminologies that are controlling your mind. If you're going to be a free thinker, and if you're going to believe in the Constitution, you have to have equal rights. Right now, because of the confusion that's going on, immigration, illegal immigration, and Muslims are taking over your country right now today. England basically has almost taken over England. Their 7 major cities are run by Muslim mayors, and the Queen of England finally is speaking up going, oh, shoot, we made a bad decision on this. We're a democracy. We're supposed to let these people have rights, but they're tearing up that country. They're shooting people in the street. Not only that, they just had a national day in England on the streets butchering animals in the middle of the street where the blood soak is going throughout the entire streets and going through their drain system, sewer and water. Yeah, I mean, and excuse me, I hate to say it, I I like bacon. We all like bacon. So when people sit there and go with bacon, don't go after our food. We know they eat and they do what they eat, and we know what they live in, but bacon is good, even though it's fatty. I mean, our chicken today in the grocery store has just as much fat as bacon does. They pump it with crap. They pump meat with crap. They even use steak glue in meat. I've been a chef. I've worked in the industry. I've seen different things that I don't go into. If you knew sometimes certain major restaurants what they put in their meat products, you wouldn't go to them. You know, type in human cadaver meat of restaurants. Look at the list of restaurants that you're eating. See, these are things that we have to evaluate and be realistic on our common sense. I don't like the word common. I won't use common law because common law is from England. People go, oh, common law. Well, if it's common law, that's called democracy, so you go by democracy law, so you have no rights. If you go by the Constitution, that gives you rights. And with the Constitution, there is no racism of religion, because that's what racism really means, or racism or of color. See, we got these men and women dividing us, or senators and congressmen dividing us because they're making money off of us. And if you do the research on most of these senators and congressmen, your drug treatment center, your alcohol drug programs, your FDA programs of drugs, your food products, they own stocks in this stuff. You know, if we could get away from oil drilling, mainly fracking is really screwing us up. You know, let's get to water power. Don't use wave energy in the ocean because that screws up the ocean. That was proved in Oregon territory. I know that. I spoke against it. I've proven some facts on that. Argued with people. They spent millions and millions of dollars putting in hydro pumps in the ocean in Oregon, and they kept on ripping off from the ocean. So millions of dollars going out, and these people don't care. China wants to do more contracts with Oregon, or governors going along with it, even though our governor was born in the state and has no legal rights to even be in office because of the 13th Amendment. She's an attorney, number one. Number two, she's born in Spain, and the Constitution says you have to be natively born. She was not born here. I don't care if her parents were maybe in the military is what people are trying to claim. But there's no real evidence of it. It's all hearsay. And we don't know about the evidence. It was a doctor like Obama. You know, because now they're trying to change things, Obama stuff. Even though Obama personally admitted he was born in Kenya. You know, so people could sit there and go, oh, we need to have immigration. Well, you have to realize with all the immigration, we've had over 170 million people come in this country since 1970. Not only that, remember their children and grandchildren were born. 60% of the food in the grocery store is not food, it's imitation or plastics, wood products. They proved that Parmesan cheese and a lot of the major manufacturers that in the grocery store is dyed food chips of sawdust. So it's like, you know, we have to research our food. So if you don't grow food, you don't know if you're really eating food. You know, potato chips, another one, saturated fats. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor, see if anybody would like to make an ending comment. And then I'm thinking that we might as well wrap this up. But remember, read the law on your rights to travel. Oregon state law has a deal where ORS 44, hang on a second. I'll read you this stuff.
All participants are unmuted.
Has it? Hello? Did we end? Okay.
I just unmuted everybody since you were away from the mic.
Okay, go ahead. We'll do that, and then I'll close with the recreational vehicle laws. Go ahead. Anybody would like to say anything? Okay, I guess nobody would like to say anything. Recreational vehicle in the state of Oregon, 446-003.333. Horseless carriage. Okay. Federal law prohibits cities and counties for issuing citations against businesses. So if you're a corporation name, that's a business. That's Title 18 U.S.C. 242-891-896, quoting Section 891. For you to not register your vehicle, and titles are optional. 803.035, 803.040, 803.310, optional vehicle registration. So the main point is looking at what the law says. That's Constitution. Constitution is the law. Everything else, when your senators and congressmen and House of Representatives pass bills, they're a bill to you. They're going to bill you like a restaurant bills you for a food meal when you go in a restaurant. So with that, may the Great Spirit bless you. May Mother Earth walk with you and provide you food and children, and the Great Spirit look over you and your own. Protect your bloodline, because if you don't protect you and your family, nobody else is.
All participants are muted.
I'll end with that one.
Well, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, and he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word? I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts, freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all. For all. Which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Thank you for listening to the disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. Today is Monday, August 28th, 2017. It is currently 7:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you very much, and have a great day.